All right, this isn't the video that some of you are going to want to see, but it's the message that some of you need to hear. I didn't gain my subscribers by blowing smoke or making clickbaity videos. I did it by resonating and by being honest. This video may ruffle some feathers, but it's going to be honest. If you're offended by anything I say in this video, you're probably the person that needs to hear this. Let's say you were taking a vacation and you were flying with your family across the country. An hour into the flight, all is going smooth, and the pilot comes over the intercom and says, well, we expect smooth sailing the rest of the flight. Please put on this parachute. You might find that a little odd, right? How about a W-2 job pulling you into the office saying, hey, you're doing fantastic, but we're not going to pay you ever again. And by the way, we need you to come in on both of your days off and work overtime. It's pretty obvious that these two examples are out of the realm of normality. But what about gig apps? When was the last time that DoorDash paid for your gas? When was the last time that they gave you paid time off? When was the last time that they contributed to your 401k? The correct answer is never, and why would they? They're not our employer. The problem is, DoorDash wants to treat us like employees without any of the benefits. And too many drivers act like that's normal, but even worse, acceptable. I want you to pause here for a moment and think of 5 gig apps in your head. Once you've done that, unpause the video. Got them? Great. Out of those 5 apps, how many of them pay for your gas, your paid time off, or your benefits? None of them. Now, out of those 5, how many of them make you set hours in advance to drive for them? Chances are, only 1. DoorDash. How many of them try to penalize you for having a low acceptance rate? Again, probably just DoorDash. How many of them will stop you from going online unless they give you permission to drive? Again, just DoorDash. Name 3 apps that make you jump through hoops for invitations to goofy programs that may or may not unlock additional order types. Again, I can only come up with 1 app. Are we independent contractors or are we employees? We're independent contractors. Why don't more drivers act like it? From time to time, I catch a little bit of flack because I criticize DoorDash, but still will take orders on there. Something I've heard more than a few times is, if you hate them so much, then quit. Okay, first of all, that's a very short-sighted viewpoint. A lot of people hate flying, but are you going to catch a Greyhound and spend 5 days on it traveling across the country when an airplane could have gotten you there in 5 hours? Probably not. Now, what if your destination was only 2 hours away? Since you hate flying, you may opt to take the train instead. Every situation is different, and like with gig apps, it's not one size fits all. The same thing is true with me and DoorDash. I use it like a tool. I don't let them turn me into a tool. I don't play their pseudo-employee games. I'm a true independent contractor, and I believe in giving myself as many options to succeed as I can. If the job makes sense, I take it, regardless of which app it comes through on. The problem I see with too many drivers is that DoorDash has set your narrative for you. They've tricked you into thinking that having to schedule hours, maintain a high acceptance rate, and grovel for access to gimmicky programs is what being an independent contractor looks like. It's not. There's one reason, and one reason only, that they use mind games to manipulate us. To get bad orders delivered cheap. 6 months ago, an order could bounce from driver to driver without being accepted, and as a result, DoorDash would end up bonusing that order until somebody finally took the order. And in some markets, that's still true. But now, in a majority of markets, they don't have to do that because drivers are convinced that they're getting a good deal with earn by time. Think about it like this. If a customer doesn't tip, that order is going to come through at about $2.50 in most markets. DoorDash could bonus that order another $4 to get it delivered. Or they could send it to a driver who's on earn by time. Assuming that DoorDash is paying $15.75 per active hour, which for the sake of this video is a very generous example, but let's go with it. That works out to be 26 cents per active minute, which in my opinion is a far more honest way of advertising the pay. But let's continue. If that order takes 20 minutes for the driver to complete, they're going to earn $5.25. Essentially, DoorDash just saved themselves $1.25. Meanwhile, the customer was charged the full amount. To drive that home, the customer was just charged out the ass for the privilege of placing that order through the DoorDash platform. Meanwhile, the driver got almost zero say in that order. They racked up miles on their car. They committed themselves to what ended up being a very low-paying order and ended up making less money than they otherwise would have if they weren't on earn by time. Now, what about hidden tips? I realize that DoorDash isn't the only one that does this, but in my opinion, they're by far the worst about it. Name one other type of contractor that has to guess how much they're going to get paid for that job. Don't worry, I'll wait. It doesn't happen. DoorDash has set the precedent that if you deliver that order, you might get paid a hell of a lot more for it. This is called gamification. You're gambling with your livelihood and hoping that that order is actually worth your time because DoorDash doesn't have the decency to tell you if it's actually worth your time. So why would they do that? Well, it's because a lot of DoorDash orders aren't worth our time. They know that taking a risk is thrilling, and if it pays off for the driver just once, they're likely to keep accepting them. Coming from somebody who worked in a casino for years, the single best thing that can happen to somebody the first time they gamble is they lose. Alternatively, the worst thing is they win the first time. If they lose, they see just how detrimental that habit is and they don't repeat the cycle. But winning is addictive and DoorDash knows this. Why do you think that they have drivers still accepting orders that might have hidden tips? We've all accepted an order at $6.75 and ended up getting paid more like $12 to $15 for it. But we've also all taken that questionable order just a little too far because it might have a hidden tip. And then we end up with an additional 25 cents more than what the offer screen showed. Let me ask you this. If you were given an offer that paid you exactly $7 going 6 miles, would you take it? Hopefully not, unless it left you in a really good area. Now, let's say that you got an order that was showing you $6.75 plus going the same distance and picking up from a fancy restaurant known for big tips. Would you be more likely to take it? That's part of the problem. How are we ever going to get transparency if we keep shooting ourselves and everybody else in the foot by continuing to play these mind games? Every time a driver accepts an order hoping to see a hidden tip, it sets the precedent with DoorDash that it's acceptable and that we just need one more hit. I'm going to be honest. Part of me is making this video out of pure frustration, and the other part of me is making it because I hate seeing drivers get walked on. I don't understand how some drivers are brainwashed into thinking it's normal to act like an employee without actually being one. How about not getting any benefits or getting tricked into horrible orders? Help me understand that mentality. If you're not running at least 5 apps on your phone every time you drive, I don't want to hear that it's slow, oversaturated, or that you can't get any hours. The opportunities are still there for those of us who seek them out. And if DoorDash is truly the only game in your market, and you have to accept garbage orders or even worse, gamble on them, why do it in the first place? Have you calculated your cost to operate? Some drivers think that they're making 20 or 30 an hour, but when you factor in gas and other expenses, it's closer to half that. So I have to ask, are you better off working overtime at a W-2? Or are you better off playing these stupid fucking games and getting walked on? Trust me, your car is not getting any younger. Take it from somebody who knows firsthand, it hurts like a motherfucker to replace it when you weren't expecting it. You should never be loyal to any one app. They damn sure won't be loyal to you. It's the fourth quarter. It's time for holiday parties and Christmas shopping. Are you on Spark, Instacart, and Shipt? All of those are about to get really fucking busy. If not, get on the wait list now. I don't care if 90% of the Grubhub and Uber Eats offers are trash in your market. They actually do it right and don't have an acceptance rate requirement to drive whenever you want. You have no excuse not to be online with those apps. Here's a tip. Install Para. There's parameters in the app that you can set that'll auto-decline orders for you. Yeah, oversaturation's a bitch. But how many apps are you turning on every time you drive? You're an independent contractor. Act like it.